Target, and welcome to the show tonight. As you know, the Spare on Target is sponsored by the Society for the Promotion of Education and Research, and it is aired every other Wednesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. live on Radio Belize, and I understand also tonight live on Channel 3 on your television. And the object of this show is to bring up issues that are interesting or controversial or important to the lives of Belizeans, and to hear differing views about these issues, and most importantly, to hear your own views. Those of you listening or watching on television should call in at number 75623. The telephone number again is 75623 with your questions or comments. The subject for tonight's presentation is the church-state system of education. And our guests tonight on my right are Bishop Desmond Smith of the Anglican Church, and on my left, Mr. Clement Wade, the General Manager of Catholic Schools. Welcome, Bishop and Mr. Wade.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And first of all, let me just say this, that we have lived the church-state system, what we call the church-state system of education, for many, many years, as far back as any of us can remember, maybe as far back as the system of education in Belize goes. Today, we have a certain situation facing us, what I would say a crisis situation, as far as education of our children go. And I would refer, for example, to the latest Spearhead, which is the paper occasionally brought out by the Society for the Promotion of Education and Research. And they have a front page article there entitled Our Children in the 90s. And what it says there is that for the 1988-89 school year, 22% of children between the ages of 5 and 14 did not attend school, that is primary school at all. And that 41% of those who begin school at the age 5 will drop out before completing primary school. And that when you sum this up, more than half of the total population age 5 to 14 will not complete primary school or have attended it at all. That is Belize today. And also, it goes on to point out that only 1 in 10 of our children will complete secondary school. Now, I regard that as a crisis in our education, but it is a product of the system we have known, which is the church-state educational system. First of all, for the benefit of our listeners and viewers, perhaps, Bishop, you could tell us what you understand by the system that we call the church-state educational system.
What I do understand by the system is mainly something that we have inherited. Originally, of course, the churches have always been involved in education, simply because the government by itself, or the government of the day, was not in a position financially to assume this responsibility. Increasingly, and since independence, more and more of this is being done by the government. Obviously, it is something which benefits both government and the church. And as speaking for the Anglican Church, as far as I am concerned, I see the day when the government will be in a position financially to assume all this responsibility. And I see that the churches will still have something to do. It may not necessarily be in the form it is today, but I know that there will still be something for the churches to do. So it isn't a matter that we have created any crisis, or that we are hanging on to schools come hell and high water. It is simply a question of history, one of economics, one of social needs. In fact, it is the Christian involvement or answer to what the gospel that we preach means for us in terms of involvement in education with the community.
So as I understand you, Bishop, you're saying that you can see the day not very far off when government, as you say, will take over full responsibility for the schools, when therefore the schools will be managed by government, and you don't see anything sinister in such a development.
This is what is happening. Is happening in most places today, and if Belize is going to be part of the worldwide community, which I believe it is and wishes to be, then I think it's one of the developments that we would do well to look at.
Fine. What are your views on that, Mr. Wade?
The views that His Lordship put out concerning eventually the state will take up its responsibilities completely of running and maintaining and managing schools to a fuller extent I don't see as a bad thing in reality. But as we look down the road, our present system has evolved over a period of many years. And I don't necessarily see a slow evolvement that has now become built in to the way our people think in Belize. I don't see a rapid, like you mentioned right there at the end of the bishop's little preamble, that in the not too distant future, when you say the not too distant future, that could be relative to time. It has taken the church many, many years and the state many, many years to develop the system to the extent that it is today. And if it has taken that long, then it might take almost as long in order to phase in a new system. And I think that will be wholly dependent on the church, the state, and the people themselves.
Yeah, well, you're talking about a century and a half then.
Well, I am not one to put an actual time limit on it, but I am only saying that it might take that long. Who knows? It depends.
Do you see anything wrong with it taking 10 years? For example, we're going into the 21st century.
I don't see anything wrong in it taking 10 years because suppose the people themselves say, look, we have worked with the system has served its purpose, and now we are ready. Because one of the things that you must know, the church is the people. And very much the church is guided by the people. And in the working of the people within the church, it is my belief that the Holy Spirit is very active within the church. So we will say that the church is the people interacting with each other and the Holy Spirit very much present.
Okay, let us try and get a clearer picture of exactly what this church-state system entails in actual fact, right? In the way the system works. All right, you have a system where most of the primary schools, the vast majority of the primary schools, are in fact managed by different denominations, right? And about half, would you say, of the secondary schools are managed by denominations as well. Maybe a little more, a little less. But the vast majority of the primary schools are managed by the denominations. But is it a case of where the church is managed, but the government pays? I mean, to the greater extent. Of course, when we talk about the state here, we're talking about the people, because it's the people's money that the state is using, or the taxpayers' money, right? So most of the cost of education is paid for by the taxpayers, right, through the state. But still, it is the churches that manage or control, if you like, the schools. Would that be a fair description of this church-state system? Church controls, state pays.
You are speaking about church and state as if the state was not the very same entity that makes up the church, the people. So any way you take it, whether it's church or state, the people pays. Because the church is the people. You can't divide the church from the state in terms of people, because you are saying taxpayers in the final analysis pay. The state is the people, and I will agree with that. But also the church is the people. It's the whole idea of church also. So in the final analysis, I think the people are the one, whether they are the religious, the priests, or the lay people that are actively involved in the church, they are still church.
Except that we're talking about one state and many churches, so that the people are divided into a whole number of churches or no church at all, right?
Yes.
Whereas the state is one organized body that is dedicated towards serving certain needs that is required by the Constitution.
And if you look at it too, the church is, the state is one body, segmented by many different ideologies also.
Oh yeah.
So it's almost the same thing, except that the semantics, as we would say, is just a little subtly different in that in church it deals with that part of you that grasps something outside of yourself.
No, what I'm talking about is that everybody has to pay taxes, right?
Yes, and everybody.
And then it is that taxpayers' money that the state, one government, right, administers. And it has a duty to administer it for the benefit of the people in different fields, including education, health, and so on.
I want to intervene here. What I want to say is that I think we must not have the notion that the churches have hogged education. We have not hogged education. Mm-hmm. We are in education because no one else was in it. There was no one else doing it, including the government. But as the government, and then of course in those days, the churches had to pay everything. The churches had to pay the teachers, they had to build the schools, maintain the schools, and they did what they were able to do. But increasingly, that burden became more heavy and more expensive. And because, of course, the church only has as much as people give, it means that we are looking more towards the government to assume more of this responsibility, which slightly belongs to the government, because people are taxpayers, as you're saying. People are taxpayers, and therefore some of the money that goes into the government must be plowed back to build up people and to educate people. And I think that the churches will continue to be in education, not because it is so much a policy that we are hanging on to, at least speaking for the Anglicans, but because the people themselves want it. I think it's the people who want it, as Mr. Wade rightly says. And I think when the people no longer want us in education, that will come to an end. But then it's difficult to put a date on that because it depends on the people. But we are not hanging on at all costs. And that is not what we are doing. In fact, I feel...
Speaking for the Anglicans.
For the Anglicans. In fact, at the moment, I feel uncomfortable when I visit our schools because I see that the facilities are so inadequate. I am interested not in the quantity of schools we have, but in the quality of the education that we are giving. And because of the dilapidated conditions which we now have for most part, our buildings are not conducive to providing the kind of education that we are wanting. That's only one part. There are other factors as well. But talking about the physical aspects, there needs to be improvement all along, including building new schools with modern facilities.
And if you take into account that alarming figure that we mentioned, that more than half of our children will not complete primary school or attend at all.
I think that's a bit exaggerated, I think.
Well, this comes from the Ministry of Education.
Maybe it does, but still, I still feel it's a bit exaggerated.
Well, maybe we're surprised by some of the things that are happening in our country.
Well, I am not surprised because I'm aware that many are coming out and still are not literate.
Even those that do
yes,
come out.
oh yes. so I mean,
again, coming back to the question of quality.
Right.
But if we can just get back a minute to defining exactly what this church-state relationship means, in terms of who pays and so on. What is the situation? Do you know? What does government pay? What does the church pay? What is the relationship?
Okay, there you have the Education Act, which clearly defines or set out the groundwork for what church must do and what state must do in order to maintain the church-state system. And the Education Act and everything says that the government pays teachers. So right off we know all teachers that are working in grant-aided, that's the term used, grant-aided primary schools are paid by the government.
Okay. Their full salary is paid by the government?
Their full salary is paid by the government.
Okay.
At this present time, the church is also responsible for, the church then is responsible for buildings, mean both capital and recurrent expenditures in buildings, that mean repairs and other things and building new buildings. And the day-to-day maintenance, the day-to-day putting into the schools of the little things that ordinarily the the teachers use, apparatus, Bristol board, chalk, that kind of thing.
You mean the church takes all the costs of buildings and repairs and maintenance?
The church is supposed to do that first of all, and then on presenting to government the necessary receipts that shows expenditure, the access government may refund to the church not more than 50% of their actual costs.
But in practice, the relationship has been that half of the costs of building, repairs, maintenance are paid by government and half by the church. Is that in practice?
In
that
practice,
has been the practice.
yes.
Okay. So we can say that, in fact, government has been paying all the salaries of the teachers plus a half of building costs, maintenance, repairs, and in some cases, supplies.
No. Expendable supplies are not paid for by government. That's part of the thing.
Okay. Now, a lot of the buildings now, over the past few years, would you not agree, have been financed by external sources and say by government soliciting financial assistance from external sources that go toward the building of schools. Would you say that a lot of our school buildings have been financed in this way over the past few years?
If you look at it, you would have to put again, when you say a lot, you would have to again put a tabulation on what you mean by that. Yes, some schools lately, not a lot, but some schools lately have been solely financed by government. And again, it has been one of those things where different funding agencies from abroad that will never fund church. You know, there are certain funding agencies from abroad that will never fund church, but is willing to put up money for the enhancements of education within the country. These funding agencies will set aside money for the Belize government to do something, and then in that way, government would look at certain needs, either within its own management, because they do manage their own schools and build buildings, or in an area where a school is needed and would build a school. So that is being done. But very much so, if you look at it, the church has also been very active in building with what they have and providing for new schools. You just look in the Anglican management, new schools are going up that the church are doing. You look in the Catholic management, new schools are going up that the church
which are half financed by the
which is supposed to be half financed by government.
When you say support, I mean you always get paid when you make the claim.
I wouldn't put it. I wouldn't put
I want to make it clear.
Yes, I wouldn't put it as always get paid, because like everything else.
As long as you can substantiate your claim, you get the 50%. Yes or no?
We are given a promissory note many times of your 50%. It's when.
But you eventually get it.
Well.
Or not?
Eventually, yes.
Okay. So government pays half.
In reality, yes.
Okay. Now, the question I want to ask then is this. Government is financing a very large part of the education bill. And certainly in primary education, and even to an ever-increasing extent in secondary education as well, right? Mm-hmm. And government does this now on behalf of the people. And government has a responsibility under the Constitution, if you like, to ensure that these services, especially if it is paying for them, right, out of taxpayers' money, are equally available to all. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yes, indeed.
Okay. Yeah. So now, if there is a policy of a particular church that says, we will favor those people who belong to our church in this school that is paid for maybe up to 90% of its cost by government, would you consider that, Bishop, in the first instance, a fair policy or not? Or an acceptable policy in our beliefs?
You mean the students or the teachers? Which one are you talking about?
Both.
Yeah.
Well, let's take either one or both.
As far as I'm aware, our schools are open to every child that comes to the school. And no selection is made on the basis that you are Anglican. Obviously, because we are Anglicans by denomination, we would welcome most Anglicans to our schools. But we are not permitted, neither will I condone the rejection of a child solely on the basis that he or she was not Anglican. In fact, most of our schools are predominantly non-Anglican in the intake. And that is how it is. That's a
But
fact.
would you go further and say that in our Belize, under our constitution, the Independence Constitution, if you were to try to discriminate in that way, you would be acting against the Constitution?
Oh, indeed I would. And I don't think that I would be happy if I knew that our principals in Anglican schools were doing
discriminating
it
in that
yes,
way.
Yes, I would not.
What are your views on that?
It's very same views in the Catholic public school system. In fact, they were, up to a few years ago, they were known as Roman Catholic schools until we have, and over the last few years, we have slightly changed the name in that we refer to our schools as Catholic public schools. And that is a statement in itself that is saying that these schools are Catholic, but they are public schools. So it should signify that there are no discrimination whatsoever. And like the bishop, I would be very upset if it was reported to me that one of my principals were discriminating definitely against students because of whom they are or their religious bias or whatever.
Okay, well, I can tell you about a case that was brought to my own notice recently, when a woman who is working at an office in Belize City told me that she had applied for her son to attend one of the Catholic schools in Belize City that was near to where she lived, and that child was refused admission because the child was not a Catholic.
If that is the case, then I think that lady should have taken the proper procedure and gone. You know, within our system, we also have a system of local management. And because in managing schools, as long as you have over a few schools, you need a kind of network of local management.
So that was
Catholic
against your policy?
Yes. And so if that was the case, now I will say if that was the case, then that woman should have appealed to the next higher authority within that school, who is the local manager, and explain the situation.
Okay. Well, I look at something here which I have from the Christian Herald, which is a Catholic publication, right? Yes. Dated May 1990. And I think it is reporting on a synod that was held and certain resolutions that were passed. And it says here, Catholic education resolutions, right? And it talks at number 3, giving of priority to Catholics in our schools. Now, how do you mesh that with what you have just told us? This says here in black and white that we agree Catholic education resolutions to give priority to Catholics in our schools.
Okay, the synod was an advisory body convened by the Bishop of Belize and Belmopan to solicit from his people guidance and direction in his running of the Catholic Church within Belize. The synod is not a law-making organization. So the resolutions goes to the bishop in terms of suggestions. And those are the suggestions that were made by the people. Those are the suggestions that was reported by the Christian Herald.
Was that suggestion adopted or not? Or do we ever know if they're adopted?
Okay, no. Definitely that particular suggestions or a number of suggestions of the synod were not adopted because they were made as advice to the bishop. As you know, in our church we have our hierarchy, and the sole lawmaker as such for the local church in the final analysis is the bishop. And the bishop has made no decree, or the bishop has made no statement to the effect that definite preference will be given in any of our Catholic schools to
Catholics.
To Catholics over other people.
Okay. And then this other point where it says turning over of schools with predominantly non-Catholic student body to government. That's one of the resolutions as well?
Yes.
Was that accepted?
Well, again,
that be put
as I said, the bishop on those two particular areas has made no main comment. But I can see, and it has always been the policy of the Catholic public school system that if you have an area where there are predominantly non-Catholics, And these people so desire to turn their school over to, let's say, to another denomination, or to turn their school over to government. The people are polled, and that is done. It was done just this year in the village of San Felipe in the Toledo district. The people said, okay, our schools have been Catholic schools since it began. We want it now to be a government school. We went into the village, we spoke to the people, they agreed, and government is now running the school.
Okay. Can I just take this opportunity to remind our viewers and listeners that this is a call-in program and that you're invited to call this program at 75623. 75623 with any questions to put to our guests or any comments that you would like to make. Can we move a little more now? You asked, Bishop, about whether I was referring to students or teachers, and I said I want to deal with both.
Yes.
And both of you have made your comments about students. Now, what about teachers? What would be your policy about employing a teacher that is not an Anglican in your schools?
Before I answer that one, I would just like to comment on what Mr. Wade was saying
Yes.
about the synod and the resolutions. Now, unlike the Roman Catholic Church, we of the Anglican community, our synods are legislative by nature. And I, as president of the synod, I'm part of the legislation that takes place at synod. So it isn't just an advisory body. I can't just ignore the synod. When synod mandates, that is what I have to do. This has been our system of government.
All the way back. Forgive me, I'll allow you to continue with that, friend, but there's a call on the air.
Yes.
And please let us... Yes, caller, you're on the air.
Hello.
Yes, please, let's hear your view.
I want to know if the Catholic synod or whatever is higher than the Constitution of the government, because I have a problem with my kids going to school, where they were being told, well, I was told that if they cannot abide by the Catholic teaching and things like that, I should take them out of the school and put them in another school.
You were told that?
The principal told me that.
At which school is it? Do you mind telling us?
I wouldn't like to.
Okay, it's all right.
Now, but I could tell the bishop or whoever it is, you know.
Okay, can we ask Mr. Wade to...
Also, I have a copy of the part of the Constitution which states that protection of freedom of conscience. It says here that except with
his own consent
and a person shall not be hindered in the enjoyment of his freedom of conscience. So I want to know if the schools, the Catholic schools, are abiding by the Constitution of the country.
And you have a particular case, your own case...
I have a particular case where the principal
of a Catholic school...
told me that if my children cannot abide by the teaching of their school, that I should take them out of the school and find another school.
Okay, stay on the line, caller. Now, Mr. Wade, number one, is that the correct procedure that this principal should have adopted? And if not, what should this caller do?
You see, this caller, if you are dissatisfied with something that is told to you by the principal, the caller should go to the local manager of that school and state his or her complaint.
Okay, but I'm asking you first of all, if what he's saying is true, should the principal have told him that, yes or no?
If the principal told him that his child will have to be removed from the school because that child is of a particular religion, then I will say that the principal is not right.
Okay. So now, yes, go ahead, caller.
I just hope that the principal will be listening to this program,
let's
so
hope
maybe
so.
he would have a different view whenever I approach him again.
Okay.
Because I was even thinking to take the matter to the court and make the court decide. Because when I told him that I would be going to higher authorities, he said that would be the same answer that I would get, so I would be wasting my time.
Fine. Well, then we have the word of Mr. Wade now, who is the general manager, and who I guess, if your local manager does not satisfy you, you can go to Mr. Wade. Am I right, Mr. Wade?
Yes.
With this complaint, and he's telling you that what the principal told you is not correct, and
if that
is what he told you
by
it
the
is
principal,
wrong.
there are other, you know, when you just look at the thing from the outside and see what, and get one person's view, many times what a person understands somebody to tell them is not particularly what that person is saying to them.
What the caller is saying is what the principal told him, that is wrong, you're saying?
Well, if the principal told him, take your child out of the school because your child isn't becoming a Catholic, then
that is wrong.
That is wrong, because no principal in any of my school is supposed to make any child that is not a Catholic become a Catholic.
Okay. Go ahead, caller.
Because we were once Catholics, but then my children just changed, right? Because due to the doctrine and teaching, I think the Catholic need to good shaken up and remodel themselves. Anyhow, thanks very much.
That's another matter.
Wait sometime.
All right, please. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. So now, we want to stick to the question of education, right? And so we thank the caller for that, and we thank your response. I think it's made the caller feel much better about the situation, and that he will carry it forward and might, if necessary, even come to see you. Now, my lord, you were saying, in respect to the teachers now, what would be your policy?
Yes, but I was saying...
Sorry, but you were talking about the synod being the,
yes,
in effect, legislative body, yes, in your church, right?
And the synod, by its very nature, is a body of elected, at least in our case, elected representatives that comes from the various congregations that make up the diocese. And therefore, they come together as members, committed members of the organization. And they have their own interests, and they have their church at heart. And like members of any organization, they would like to see institutions that we are in charge of have a predominance of the members there. So that it is not, I think, unfair to say that when at the synod members get up and speak and say that they would like to see our schools being predominantly Anglican, both in students and in teachers, they're expressing a wish. But of course, they are not always aware of all the mechanics in running an institution such as schools are.
And as the caller said, the synod cannot be above the constitution of the land.
Well, I don't know what the caller was really getting at, because I think he has been more specific in terms of what he was getting at.
I think what he meant is that if your synod were to say this is our policy, but if that policy conflicts with the constitution, then you cannot carry out such a policy. But there is a call. Can we take the call first and then get your comment on that? Yes, caller, you're on the air.
Hello, good night.
Yes, please, continue.
I am a person who is very concerned about the educational situation in the country. And I am of the view that the church-state system is a dismal failure. I take the view, first of all, that the church unquestionably has responsibility for spiritual things. And in that area, the church seems to be failing miserably, because I don't think there has been a time in history when we have as many problems of a spiritual nature than we have today. And referring to things like abortion, incidents of abortion, drugs, corruption, immorality in the society. Apart from that, most of our churches are almost bare of congregation. Hardly anybody bothers to go to church, neither the young, nor the old, nor the middle class. So that it seems that the church would have its hands full dealing only with matters of a spiritual nature. With respect to the educational aspect, which I think is more of a secular nature, we find out that, for example, our primary school system, half our children will not be reaching primary school. Of the others who reach primary school, half will not reach secondary school. As a matter of fact, the society does not even have space for that half. We also find, too, that the quality of education offered, those in the rural get a very terrible standard of education. Hardly enough schools, hardly enough teachers, hardly enough equipment of any type. The standard is very, very poor, particularly in the rural, and it is not much better in the towns. The church certainly at this time does not have the finance to build buildings or to provide incidentals. I know of schools that can't find toilet paper, who can't pay for Bristol board, they can't pay for chalk and that kind of thing. So that what is happening today, if we look at the society on a whole, we find out that Belize is seriously lacking in people who have skill and training in almost any field. It's very difficult to find, for example, half a dozen carpenters, half a dozen plumbers, half a dozen masons who are really worth their salt. Not to mention people in the more professional fields. And then, as I'm saying, in the church, in the religious sector, the situation seems to be on the brink of crisis.
So would
it
you?
Seems to me that we're not doing well, neither spiritually nor secularly, in this church system.
So you would consider an alternative to that system?
I think
To be
personally
necessary.
that the government has the responsibility, the primary responsibility for education. Yes, our educational system started as an accident of history, but that's 150 years ago. That accident should not be allowed to perpetuate itself, especially in the 21st century.
Okay.
When education is so vital.
All right, Carla. Thank you very much indeed for that comment.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So I'm sorry, my lord, you were saying, with respect to teachers then, what is your policy? Will you discriminate against an applicant who is not an Anglican, but who is otherwise very qualified to teach in your school, and you need that teacher? Yes or no?
We would always prefer to have Anglican teachers in Anglican schools, but as the school population will show you, that quite a large percentage of our teachers are non-Anglicans. So that we are not discriminating in anybody at all.
And in any particular case, you would not discriminate. Suppose two people apply.
Yes.
One is an Anglican, one is not. Would you give preference to the Anglican?
I don't think I can answer that question just like that. I think that's a hypothetical question because
Okay, but as a matter of principle, you would or you would not?
I think that we
As a
would
matter of
prefer
principle.
to have Anglicans in Anglican schools. I think that's the policy. We would prefer to have Anglican teachers in Anglican schools because, after all, I mean that's part of the church-state relationship that we are allowed to have the kind of people that we have some influence over, morally and otherwise. If you, in most cases, when you employ a non-Anglican, you don't have much influence on a person, apart from the academics. That's about all. I'm not saying that teachers don't cooperate. There are many who do. There are many who don't.
What about an Anglican as against anybody else you're talking? As against a Catholic, as against an agnostic, as against a Muslim?
We have all these people now in our schools.
You do?
That's what I'm saying, yes.
So you don't have a policy of discriminating? You would not say you have a policy of discriminating against non-Anglicans? Or you do?
It never is a policy. I think it's an expediency.
Okay. What about you, Mr. Wade, in terms of your Catholic education?
I think it's very much the same. You know, we have teachers of every denomination working within the Catholic system. In fact, there is a loose organization known as the Association of General Managers, in which all the general managers of all denominations get together every 3 months or so, in which we speak about common policies. And one of the things is teachers are always moving from one general management to the next. It's just a matter of, many times, just a matter of us going to the next general manager and said, would you recommend this teacher as somebody that is sound and will be able to do a good job and is fit?
You will not have a regard to the religion of that person?
Many times, no. That is why they are always moving from one management to the next. The bishop rightly say, we would prefer, and I don't think any management would not prefer having teachers of their own denominations within their management.
Okay, we have a caller. Let's hear what he said. Yes, caller, you're on there.
Hello, I'd just like to say that I agree totally with that man just now that explained the whole situation of the church system right now. That it is more of a secular nature more than Christianity really going on. And I think the whole system is just a case of the blind leading the blind.
Okay.
Because even as a Catholic, you have very much more than discrimination, and I think these people know this. So I'm wondering if they're not wasting their time.
You
And the
mean,
message I'd like to just leave is for Catholics and throughout, instead of discouraging the people more, you know, because the whole situation is so terrible, I think they should just try to receive the message of change.
you're saying there is discrimination based on religion? No.
More than discrimination. You know, you don't have the right even to speak. Even their own people, they won't even listen to each other. You know, we can't even talk
Right.
together. So everybody is just discouraged. And as a result, like the man said just now, people just turn their backs and they ignore them, which they have a right to do. Because if they would remember, Jesus gave the right to people not to listen to people, or maybe I should say false prophets, that the church would think maybe it's only the people that are out there who are false prophets. We have a lot of false prophets traveling from abroad coming to Belize. And that's for all the denominations I can see right now.
Okay.
So I just like to say, I'd like to leave a message of change for the whole system.
All right. Okay, Carla, thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So coming back to that point about teachers, right, and discrimination. I have here, for example, a message from also from the Christian Herald of September of 1990. This is a reprint in the Belize Times, which is it's entitled "The Bishop's View," right? And it says here, in the case of our Catholic schools, primary, secondary, or tertiary, teachers ought to have a full understanding of the Catholic faith and its teachings, right? And it goes on to say, a teacher who is an agnostic, an atheist, or one who subscribes to ideologies opposed to Christian ideas and values should not be in a classroom in a Catholic school. Now that is a statement from the bishop. That expresses policy, right? Before you answer it, let's take this caller, and then I want you to think about that and reply to that. Yes, caller, you're on the air.
Hello.
Yes, you're on the air. Let me hear you.
Do you think it's fair that because someone comes from an Anglican or maybe a Methodist school, that a Catholic school will accept them to be in their school?
You don't think it's fair, clearly.
No, I'm asking if you think it's...
If I think it's fair. No, of course I don't. You want to hear the views of, I think both the gentlemen here with me would also agree that that is not fair. They've more or less expressed that position. So
if they come from other division or other maybe Methodist, Anglican school, a Catholic school should accept them as well, right?
I think so, yes.
Well, I had two kids that they weren't accepted in a Catholic school.
Because why?
Because they came from an Anglican school.
And they were told so?
Yeah. They were told
Can you lower your radio, because we're getting too much feedback. Can you reduce the volume on your radio?
Yes,
And then maybe...
be accepted due to that. So in my view, I think it wasn't fair on the children's behalf.
So they were applying to a Catholic school, and they were refused because they were not Catholics.
Yeah.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah, they were Catholic.
Oh, yes, they were.
Just because they come from another school.
Oh, from an Anglican school?
Yeah.
I see. What would be your advice to this gentleman, Mr. Wade?
Something is wrong there with your understanding of the whole thing, I am sure. Because here you have Catholic children, and they are refused by Catholic school because they came from an Anglican school, and they are Catholic. There must be some other reason, and you should return to that person that told you these children won't be accepted because they came from another school, and see exactly what is, and clear up the thing, because I am sure there is some misunderstanding somewhere.
Okay, but
but in reality,
what he said should not have happened,
no,
if that's how it happened.
Said, if that is the case, again, I said it shouldn't have happened.
Okay, so he's advising you, caller, to go back to the person who told you that, and if you cannot get redress care, go to the local manager, and if you can't get a good explanation there, go and see Mr. Wade, who is the general manager. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much indeed.
Welcome.
So, Mr. Wade, here is this, your bishop is saying what I just read, right? About what a teacher in a Catholic school, primary, secondary, he says, or tertiary.
Okay.
What is your...
I can do nothing but to agree with the bishop in this case.
But you just said the opposite a
yes.
while ago.
You are the bishop is speaking primarily to a teacher that doesn't have any faith at all.
Okay, let's hold that. And there's a caller on the air. Yes, caller, let me hear your views. You're on the air.
Yes, good night.
Good night.
What Mr. Wade is saying now, I have personal experience that being a former teacher of the Catholic schools, they insist that the children that are registered come in with their birth certificate and their baptism certificate, or they will not be accepted in the schools. So could Mr. Wade comment on that?
Because in effect, that is a form of saying you have to have been baptized in our church. What do you comment on that, Mr. Wade?
I will comment on that by saying, how is it then we have more than 40% of the children in the Catholic schools in Belize right here that are not Catholic?
In Belize City, you mean?
Yes, in Belize City. More than 40% of the children in schools in Belize City are not Catholics. How do we take them in if we only accept them by baptismal certificate?
Yes, caller?
that's because they give the preference to the Catholic children. Then if you come afterwards and you're not a Catholic and they have space for you, they accept you.
You say you're speaking from experience,
Exactly.
having been a teacher at a Catholic school.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, any comment on that, Mr. Wade?
Well,
Beyond what you've already said.
yes, you know.
It seems that in practice there is, certainly at certain levels, there is a certain degree of discrimination that is exercised.
Except that
we have too many cases of people saying.
Except that if it's there, you see, one of the things you are contradicting the facts. How do you have predominantly, and then you still have Catholic children running around out there that can't find a space in a Catholic school, that will approach an Anglican school and say, could I be a part of your school? If we were accepting predominantly Catholics, then, or if we were accepting Catholic children alone, then the percentage wouldn't be the way it is.
Okay. Yes, caller, you need to say anything else?
Well, I just think that they're sidestepping the issue, because that was a fact that they did say that they needed a baptismal certificate to enter the school, or they will not enter the school.
I have heard parents complain about that before,
Okay.
certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Did you want to say something, Malo?
What I do want to say here is that I think that it must be borne in mind, and people tend to forget this sometimes, that we are denominational schools by nature. When, as often we do, have to appeal for funds to maintain our schools, to enlarge our schools, nobody has any obligation to us except our members. Our members are the first people we have to appeal to for funds, for anything that we need to do. And I think it is only fair, and it's only logic, that the members themselves will feel that they should have preference. It may not be our policy at all, but I mean, we're not angels.
Yeah, but the question is not whether it's your policy, but whether it is legal for you to behave in that way.
Well, I don't think it is. I don't think it is legal, but I think you have isolated cases of individuals being over enthusiastic sometimes, and we got to take the blame for it.
Yeah, I think you're right there, my lord. Let's have the next caller. Yes, caller, you're on the air.
Yes, I just want to make a comment on what has been said earlier. With regard to preferring or taking Catholic teachers within Catholic schools, we have to remember that the school is both Catholic and public. And if we say we are Catholic schools, then what we stand for is the Catholic faith. And I believe, and I don't think we need to be apologetic, I believe we need to hire teachers who can impart that faith and do it with a sense of pride, because that is what we say we are. It's not just a public school, it's also a Catholic school, as well as an Anglican public school. And I just want to say that that's something that we feel very strongly about. And I hope that we can continue. Why call yourself a Catholic school if you are not then imparting the faith?
So as a Catholic and possibly as a person involved in Catholic education, you're saying it is right for the Catholic management of schools to discriminate in favor of Catholics?
Oh, no, I am not saying discriminate.
In favor of Catholics?
No, I'm not saying discriminate. What I'm saying is, if you say that you stand for a certain thing, then the way that you will promote yourself is to have people that will help you to do that.
Yes.
And so then that's why you would choose Catholic teachers.
Okay, well, if you choose one person over another on the ground of religion, then you are discriminating in favor of one and against the other on that ground. Would you not agree?
We cannot look at it as, we have to look at the entire picture and put it into perspective. You can't just single that out and say you're choosing one person over the other. You make your choice based on who you say you are. And
if you say you're Catholic, then you base it on that. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much, caller.
You're welcome.
So does that express your view as well?
You know, we were talking about...
That's very clear. It's saying,
Yes.
we say we're Catholic, so if you apply and if you're a Catholic, we'll give you the job.
Yes,
And if you're not, we won't.
But you were, just before we asked the caller, you were saying, the bishop said.
Yeah,
and you read the
I
thing
read what
about
he said, yeah.
And it comes right back to maybe the very same thing, that you have Christian schools.
Yeah.
whether it be Anglican or Catholic, teachers in your school, if they are of a Christian background, will be able to give the children within that school the Christian upbringing. That why we keep denominational school also is to give, not only give good education, but to give good Christian education. And somebody coming into your school without that necessary Christian background, what will you have?
Well, what do we have? Because as a result of all that Christian education, one of the earlier callers said that the spiritual situation is worse than it's ever been before.
But that's one person's opinion.
Okay, let's have another caller. Yes, caller, you're on there.
Yes, I'd just like to say that I think it's a bit ridiculous that your guest on the show is saying that there's no discrimination in the schools when it comes to hiring teachers and accepting students. I think it is obvious that there is. And I think that is an inherent result of the church-state system itself. There will always be discrimination of that kind as long as there's this kind of system. For example, there will always be the Catholic schools accepting students more from Catholic primary schools to go to high school than they do from other schools. That is an inherent part of the church-state system.
And teachers as well.
Yes, and also I think, on another point, when we speak about everyone getting an equal education, the church-state system does not really provide this in a very good way. Basically because churches have different amounts of money to do different amounts of things, and some churches which have more money, because of their international connections, can provide a better quality of education than other schools. And so when parents send their kids to schools of their denomination, they might be sending their kid to a school that does not give the quality of education that another school can give. So there's inequality of education across the board. This is an inherent also a problem with the church-state system. So I think we really need to rethink the educational system that we have, especially at the primary school and high school levels in our country right now.
Okay, Carla, thank you very much. And I might reflect on that statement in saying that the preamble to our Constitution insists that we must have a system whereby education is provided on the basis of equality. And I think the point the caller is making, even if you look, say, at the size of the congregation here, and the number of better off people in a particular congregation might be able to give more money to that congregation, and therefore the quality of education or the amount of education and the facilities and so on that denomination may be able to offer is greater than others. No? But the point is, you see, does every citizen have a right as a student to attend any school of his or her choice? But even beyond that, does every citizen have a right to work and not to be discriminated against on grounds of religion? And therefore, if I am a teacher, I don't care if I'm an agnostic, if I'm an atheist, if I'm a Methodist, if I'm a Muslim, if I'm a Catholic, and I apply to a Catholic school, this Constitution says I should not be discriminated against. There's another caller. Yes, caller, you're on the air.
Hello, good night. I
Good
want
night.
to ask how many Catholic students are there in Anglican schools?
Can you answer that, madam?
I have no idea how many are there, but I don't think I don't think there'll be many. I shouldn't think. No,
Not because you turn them back, but simply because they don't apply.
they don't apply. I mean, it has to do with ability too. I think that I think Belizeans also have this prestige thing. That there are certain schools or prestige schools, and naturally, because they feel they have abilities, that schools get the predominance of what you call the best students. And those who don't make it to those prestige places then will come to the other places that they never thought of before to come and get the education that they feel that they're entitled to. But more than that, I think that Belizeans have got also to be aware of the fact that we will only get education we need to get if we invest into it. I think we need to invest, and I think the people who have benefited from the church education, poor as it may have been in the past, I think it will be worse if those same people now don't come and put their money where their mouth is. So that there needs to be greater investment financially.
Who will invest that? Who?
Well, the people who have benefited in the past, the people who are now able to see all the inequity.
And if they don't, do you not see an obligation of the government?
I do say but the government is the people, as we have said.
Through taxes.
Yes, but also through their voice.
And through their voice, yeah.
and I think more choose their voice than anything else, because I think that if the people who are calling us tonight would be contacting the members of the National Assembly and telling them exactly how they feel about certain issues, maybe there might be a change.
Okay. Carla, are you still there? No, the caller went. Okay. So you understand what I'm saying? That this Constitution says, right? It says no person shall be treated in a discriminatory manner by any person or authority. And discriminatory means affording different treatment to different persons, attributable wholly or mainly to their respective description by, among other things, creed, where persons of one religion are treated better than persons of another. That is against the Constitution. It is illegal. When policy statements are made, and when the caller, the female caller that said, we are Catholics and therefore you must expect us to favor Catholics, and when you say that too, you're saying things that basically are against the Constitution.
No, what I am saying is the bishop has a right to say exactly what he said. He did not say that he will throw out any non-Catholic teachers. He just said they have no place within the Catholic system.
Come on, but what does that mean? Let's not play with words.
We're not playing with words. The thing about it is, he said that.
Okay, there's a caller. Yes, caller, you're on the air.
Yes.
Turn your radio down and then talk.
Turn it on. Yes. You're playing with words there. And I don't know what your idea is or what your desires are, but you're using our Constitution against us. You're using words like discriminatory. Okay, we have denominational schools, and those schools are committed to their members, as the bishop said. I am a Catholic, and I expect my children to be taught the Catholic faith in a Catholic school. The reason the baptismal certificate is required is so that the children are identified. This is a Catholic, and this child has to be taught the Catholic faith. Now, as a Catholic and a supporter of my church, as the bishop said, the churches go to their members for support. The bishop, who said he does not want an agnostic, etc., in this as a teacher, is quite right.
Okay.
If I am a Catholic and I send my child to a Catholic school, I expect
Catholic
a Catholic
teachers.
teacher.
Fine.
Okay, you are not to use the word discriminatory against such a thing.
Okay.
You are not to use the Constitution against us.
Fine. Thank you very much,
who have
caller.
had a Catholic education.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Not tank.
I have to thank you because the engineers around me are telling me that we've run out of time. I'm sorry, okay? But
You don't want to listen.
It's not that I don't want to listen.
You don't want to listen to the truth. Do not use our Constitution against us.
You've said that.
Do not use such words against us.
You've said that. Thank you. But I'm saying that the engineers are saying that we've run out of time. We really do have to cut the program short now, okay?
Just now that I begin to speak.
Carla, I'd be happy to have you speak for another half an hour, but I don't think the radio people will allow us. We have up to 9 o'clock, and I think it's 9 o'clock now. Okay? Thanks very much. Okay, would you say that that caller represents the essence of what you believe is right with the church-state system? Yes or no?
Which caller?
This just one that just finished talking. You think she's right in what she said? Yes or no?
Well, to a certain extent, the caller is right in that you have put forward the view to a certain extent that.
No, sorry, we really don't have time. But you're saying basically the caller is right.
Yes, basically the caller
fine.
is right.
Bishop, is the caller right?
Well, I would say that I'm glad to know that some of our members are willing to stand up and express their views as strongly as those who are opposed to us.
Mm-hmm. Is she right or not, as far as you're concerned?
Well, I think she's right to express her view, yes.
Fine. We are all right to express a view, but
yes.
the view she expressed accords with your own in terms of what she expressed or not?
But she was talking about the Roman Catholic Church. She wasn't about the Anglican Church.
Okay. Thank you very much, my Lord. And thank you very much, Clement. And we thank our viewers and listeners for sharing in this very interesting topic. And the topic we hope to have 2 weeks from now has to do now with another very important social aspect of Belize, which is the health system. Today we discussed something about the educational system, which is very important. I think the health system is equally important. and we'll be discussing that in our next show. We thank you all again for coming. Thank our listeners for listening and for calling and for expressing your views. The very purpose of this is to have different views expressed and the people to be their own judges of which they want to share and which they don't. We thank you all, and good night until 2 weeks from now. This is Spare and Target, myself, Assad Shoman, thanking our two guests and thanking you for listening. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you too.